Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1331A, and today's date is July 13th, 2017, and the title of the episode is Alarm Bells Are Going Off Everywhere. The message, this economy cannot be sustained. Now, before I get started, I just want to make an announcement. I uploaded a new interview with Craig Hemke. It is on the X22 Report Spotlight YouTube channel. So all you need to do is go over to YouTube, type in X22 Report Spotlight. It'll bring you right to the interview, or you can go to x22report.com site or newsentinel.com. Scroll down a little bit, look over to your right hand side. You'll see the video there. You can play it right on the site, or you can go to Steemit. That's Steemit, STEEMIT.com /at X22 Report, and you can view it right on Steemit. Let's get into the economic collapse financial news. Now, it looks like the central bankers, they are making their move, and they're trying to do away with cash. Now, we heard all about this before. There were some experiments that were done in other countries. We heard different individuals saying, let's get rid of the $100 bill, let's get rid of this bill. And it looks like the war on cash, well, it's escalating right now. The payment networks, they want to kill cash. And it looks like this is coming from like Visa, MasterCard, where they use the payment systems, and what they want everyone to do is they want everyone to use credit card and debit cards. They don't want anyone to use cash. Now, how are they doing this? Well, Visa, they have this new offer for small merchants. Take thousands of dollars from the card giant to upgrade their payment technology. In return, the businesses must stop accepting cash. Now, the company unveiled the initiative on Wednesday as part of a broader effort to steer Americans away from using paper money. So we see already that when you go into a store, if they take this offer, they're going to say, sorry, you can't use cash. Sorry, you can't use cash. And as more and more stores do this, people will stop using cash. Now, there are going to be problems, of course, because we still have restaurants like using and accepting cash. And we know right now that there's waiters and waitresses, they like to accept cash. A lot of people that go into these establishments, they like to use cash. Also, the people are saying now with this new chip, it takes way too long to have some type of transaction. Before, when you just swipe the card, it was much faster. Now it takes a very long time, and there's a lot more information that is transferred over to track what you're actually purchasing. So we can see at this point that they are making a play for this. Now, remember, we talked about how the central bankers, how they are trying to control the economy. Now, they control most of it now. What they really want to do is they want to control everything. And when I mean everything, that means they can control everything that you do. They can watch everything that you do. They don't need to spy on you, because all that data will flow right into them, and there's nothing else you can do. And we can see at this point that to move, what they want to do is move away from paper currency and go into digital currency. Now, is this such a bad thing? Well, no, not really. What makes it bad is that it's centralized from the central bank. If it's decentralized, that's okay. Centralization, they have control over everything that you're doing. So this is what they're trying to do. Now, they're looking into the blockchain technology. Don't get me wrong. There's many people out there saying, well, the blockchain technology, it's going to free us of all this. Well, they're looking at it to keep us enslaved, because they're going to use the blockchain technology within their systems. Then we have the decentralized blockchain system where they don't have any control of this. So there's going to be a battle between these two systems. And you know what the central bank wants. They don't want to give any of this up. And this is why they're trying to maintain control. Now, we already know, coming out of the CBO, they've looked at the entire economy, and they said, listen, the way things are right now, everything cannot be sustained. And everything that Trump is trying to do, well, it can't be sustained because the U.S. debt is unsustainable right now. and we might head into some type of financial crisis. Now, once again, we are hearing alarm bells all over the place where they're flashing these warnings. Now, we know that the Fed, they're saying that they're not going to raise interest rates. They think everything is, okay, it's normalizing, it's stabilizing right now, and they're going to unwind their balance sheet. And I heard that Yellen, well, she's going to make sure as she's unwinding the balance sheet, she's going to keep an eye on the flattening yield curve to make sure, it stabilizes. Now, of course, as we know, as they continually to do all this, we know that this is going to get out of hand because we've seen this before. This is nothing new. If we go back to 2004, 2005, 2006, they did the same exact thing. Now, the economy was much, much stronger back then. Actual Americans were working in the economy. They were actually buying homes. They were actually spending money. Today, we don't see any of that. The economy is a ghost economy where Americans are sitting on the sidelines. What we're seeing in the stock market, what we're seeing in the housing market, what we're seeing around the entire country is where the central bank has taken control, and they're the ones with hedge funds, investment companies, and others. They're the ones who created this illusion. Remember, over 100 million people are sitting on the sidelines because they can't find a job. They're looking. They just can't find work. And many of these individuals, which they are counted as full-time jobs, they're working part-time jobs or maybe 2 part-time jobs. They're not out buying these incredibly nice homes or any type of home. This is all done by the central banks. And if you look at the balance sheet of the central bank, what we see is about $838 billion or 40% of their balance sheet. Well, that belongs to foreign banks. So what we see is this system, it's falling apart in all different areas, and many financial pundits, many different financial institutions, they're out there and they're ringing the alarm bells. Now, let's think about this for a second. We had the 1999 stock bubble. We had the 2007 bubble. And if we go back in time, remember how everyone said that it really wasn't that big of a bubble because stocks weren't as expensive as they've been during the previous bubble, the tech bubble? We all remember how that turned out. The bubble burst, leading to the greatest financial crisis in 80 years. Well, today's bubble is way larger than that of 2007. And arguing that the stocks are cheaper than they were during the tech bubble, well, that doesn't hold water anymore. And if we look at the chart, we can see that the S&P 500's price to sales ratio, called the PS ratio, you can see based on this metric, 2000 bubble is a mere blip. We're now in a territory not seen since 1999 stock market bubble. We're almost at that same exact place. And if we look at this, we can see that earnings, cash flow, book value are all financial data points that can be massaged via all different type of gimmicks that they use. And as a result of this, the valuing stocks based on price to earnings, price to cash flow, price to book value can often lead to inaccurate valuations. One thing very hard to manipulate: sales. Sales, well, it's very hard to massage that type of data. Either the money came in the door or it didn't. And if the company is caught faking its sales number, well, most of the time people go to jail. Not all the time. So the fact that stocks are now trading at a PS ratio that matches the tech bubble, which is the single largest stock bubble in history, tells us that we're truly trading at astronomical levels associated with staggering levels of excess. And this is not going to end well. Now, Bank of America is out there, and they're saying that the most dangerous moment for markets will be when rising rates combine in 3 or 4 months' time with an inflection point in corporate profits. So they're saying that something is going to happen 3 to 4 months from now. And if you look at their chart that they're presenting, they show that the total amount of hours worked necessary to buy a unit of the S&P 500 has risen to an all-time high. Now, the last time we saw this was in '99. Guess what? We're at the same exact point as we were back in 1999. This is not going to end well. Now, to take this a step further, we know that other countries, they are having major problems. Canada, for instance, they just raised their rates. The first time they raised rates since 2010. And we know that their housing market is in a bubble. Now, when you raise rates like this and they put other laws into place, we know we're going to be in for a lot of trouble. Now, the IMF is out there saying this might be a bad idea because when you start looking at the housing prices, they are far beyond where the United States was back in 2007, 2008. They're almost double. And this is one gigantic bubble. And when that hits, it's going to be a complete disaster. Now think about this for a second. Australia is in the same boat. The United States, we've never recovered. The bubble that we're seeing in the housing market, this is an illusion. This was created by the central bank. There's no real players in the market, just like the stock market. It's all driven by algos and the click of a mouse. And what we're seeing in Canada, what we're seeing in Australia, what we're seeing out in Europe, in the UK, we're seeing the same exact thing. Now, if we have bubbles all around us like this, like we did, back in 2007, 2008, how do you think this is going to end? This is not going to work out well for anyone. And we are seeing that many countries now, many financial institutions, they're just coming out and saying, listen, we're going to have a major problem. Now, of course, the Fed is out there and they're trying to control this because, remember, they're going to bring it down when they're ready to go. And remember, Janet Yellen was out there saying that we're not going to see a financial crisis in our lifetime. That is definitely the signal to let us know that this whole thing is going to completely fall apart. Because if you go back in time, you can hear each one of these Fed chairmen say the same exact thing in a little bit of different way, where Bernanke said, we're not forecasting a recession, and something like 8-9 months later, we're in a recession. Well, she mentioned this. This tells you that this whole thing is about to fall apart. Now, her term comes up in January of 2018. She's most likely looking to escape this because she realizes, listen, I won't be around and this will be blamed on the next person. Now, when is this going to hit? We don't exactly know. I mean, it could hit any time. Just like back in 2008 when Obama was running against McCain. If people remember this, and McCain was out there saying that the economy is perfectly healthy. There is nothing wrong with the economy. Of course, he had no clue what he was talking about. And the economy crashed right before the elections in October. I mean, think about what happened there. Now, all this time, they were telling us everything was contained. You don't have to worry. There's no subprime security crisis. Everything looks fantastic. Housing doesn't fall down. It doesn't implode on itself. That's just ridiculous. And from all our statistical evidence and everything that we've been researching, we're not forecasting any type of recession. And if we go back to that time, and if anyone saw The Big Short, there were individuals who were scratching their head trying to figure this out, saying, okay, the economy should have come down a long time ago. Actually, these subprime securities, they're garbage, but they're rated AAA. Something's wrong here. And the whole thing, and they projected when they thought the economy was going to come down, and it never did. It came down much later. But they were right. People were laughing at them. People were pointing at them saying, oh, when is it going to come down? Oh, when is it going to come down? And of course, they were getting nervous and saying, okay, when is this going to come down? And all of a sudden, everything came down. And all those people that were laughing, well, they went bankrupt, they lost everything they had, and those individuals, well, they made billions and billions and billions of dollars. The same thing's happening right now. People are laughing, people are pointing, saying, oh, look, you said it's coming down. When is it coming down? Well, like I said before, to build an illusion, to build a structure, to build a house, to build something, it takes a while for it to come down, especially when you build something. Let's say you're building a building and you're building it out of inferior cement, inferior steel beams. Yes, it might have taken 5 years to build that building. But when that structure, because it's inferior, because it's built on an illusion, when it starts to crack and come down, it doesn't take 5 years to come down. It comes down in a split second. The same thing happens with the economy. Think about last time, all the way back to 2003, moving onward. How long did it take them to build the economy and create these bubbles? A long time. How long did it take it for it to come down? Not that long. The same thing is going to happen once again. And this time it's much, much worse because they didn't fix the problem. They didn't do anything to resolve the issues that we had before. All they did was pretend they didn't exist. And they created this gigantic illusion, which a lot of people believe in. And all these people that are believing in it, well, they're in for a rude awakening. The whole thing is going to fall apart. And of course, we don't have a crystal ball. We don't know exactly when it's going to happen, but we've been tracking it. And we're finding that, yes, the real nuts and bolt of the economy, it's falling apart. We've been looking at the actual numbers of GDP, of unemployment, corporate defaults, corporate tax revenue, state receipts for taxes, federal tax revenue. And we noticed that, guess what? The tax revenue's not there. The jobs are fake. We're no longer a manufacturing company. We're no longer a service country. And the housing market is one gigantic fake bubble. And the retail market is imploding on itself. And people cannot find work. They're barely getting by. And I hate to say this, but a lot of people pretend around you. Don't think that your neighbor or two neighbors down, everything is fine with them, because I'm going to tell you right now, most people will not tell you that they're out of work. Most people will not tell you that they got laid off and they're working 2 part-time jobs. I remember back in 2008, people on both sides of me, they lost their jobs. I had no clue. I thought everything was fine. Until much later on, when all of a sudden, the houses went up for sale. People were moving. Actually, some people were foreclosed on. Other people that I knew, the same thing happened. So people don't come out and tell you this. And just because you think you know, you really don't. So what we need to do right now, because we're seeing all these alarm bells go off, we need to get prepared for what is coming. And we know it's coming. The system is going to take a dive, which means that it's going to be horrific. I mean, if they didn't bail out back in 2008, it would have been a complete and utter disaster, something that we've never seen before. People don't realize this, that we would have seen AIG, Bank of America, Goldman, all these places, they would have been shut down. Millions of people would have been out of work. All of a sudden, the currency would have been worth absolutely nothing. The entire global economic system would have come to a screeching halt. No one would be able to get credit. There'd be no deliveries. There would have been nothing. That's what would have happened. Well, we're heading to that point once again. But this time, there is no bailout. This time there's a transition, and there's a period that we're going to go through, which is not going to be pleasant for many Americans, many Canadians, many Australians, many British individuals, many people in Europe, and it's going to be very tough. This is why you need to get prepared and ready. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.